Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Applebox Chronicles. My name is Peyton Buto,
And I'm Adryon Thomas.
and today on the ABCs, we are taking you from A to Z on male friendship. Welcome to Psychology 101. We will be taking you from A to Z on the concept of male friendship as expressed in the movie Friendship, starring Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. Tim Robinson you may know from I Think You Should Leave, plenty of sketch comedy. Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd, you know who that is. And yeah, Adrian, what do you think of this movie? Why are we talking about this movie?
Well, so it's a movie that just dropped, and when we saw the trailer, it looked so good. We were so excited for it, and I don't know if you're a big fan of Tim Robinson. He has his sketch show. I Think You Should Leave on Netflix. If you're really into that stuff, then this movie's definitely for you. At this moment, it's probably my favorite movie of the year. Like, it's so funny. There's a lot of themes going on in this movie. All the performances are hilarious. It's like a laugh per like 30 seconds. Like, it's consistently so funny. And I was just excited to talk about it today.
I'm super excited to talk about it, especially because we just get to talk about being men who are friends. We're experts on this, actually. We're friends.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We're friends sometimes.
So we really got into this film, and it was interesting how friendship could also be toxic, especially for guys.
That's what I mean by we're experts.
Yeah,
obviously.
So we just really wanted to talk about this movie because there's a lot of movies out there about male friendships and how you could have good male friendships and you could have bad male friendships, and this one is a bad male friendship movie.
I think this is actually something, and we'll get into this. You will find that this movie is very adjacent to a lot of these other male friendships in films. A lot of popular films that have male friendships at the center of them are taking a lot of what is explored in this movie, but they are more on the plot and like there's more going on in those films. This is like, obviously it's a comedy, so it's able to really make fun of this stuff, but it is such a raw form of expression on this very topic. And so that is what is, I think, so fantastic about this movie. I agree that it is one of the best films of the year so far. I think it's the best comedy I've seen in a hot minute. I know you agree with that as well. The comedy in this film, it's kind of random on the surface, but it's not random at all. I remember when we saw this, all of our friends that we saw it with, and we were all discussing it afterwards, were like, wait a minute. That random joke, that actually makes so much sense in like thematically of what's going on, and it all seems very intentional in a way that is perfectly hidden in plain sight, and I think it's wonderful. I think it honestly is a perfect movie that will be a little bit overlooked in some of its stronger aspects thematically because of how fucking funny it is.
Well, yeah, because it mixes lowbrow humor and highbrow humor so well. Like, when you first watch it, you almost think it's all just like all this low-hanging fruit kind of lowbrow, crazy, weird humor that they're trying to poke at. But when you actually look at it and like what they're trying to do, you get so much out of it. Like, all the jokes, like, whether you think it's just funny to be funny or funny because it's trying to say something, I think they're all trying to say something in a way.
They are, I agree. And I think this movie is so rewatchable. I've seen it twice. You only saw it once at this point.
I really wanted to watch it again before doing this one, but I just didn't have time.
Yeah. But, I'm sure A24 will put out a Blu-ray. We'll be watching this all the time because this is something like almost like Big Lebowski level rewatchable is kind of what comes to mind.
Yeah, it has almost... I feel like it's going to have that really classic rewatchability thing about it. It's like a hangout film.
Yeah, and it's very much a movie that I think could have only been made today because of what it's tackling and how it tackles so many modern things. But then at the same time, I feel like for ages, like we could just rewatch this movie and get so much out of it over time. So we are going to get into the plot. This is obviously a very joke heavy film. And so if you don't want some of those jokes spoiled for you, you might want to listen with caution, because we will be talking about our favorite jokes and kind of diving really deep into this movie, because I do think this is a genuinely deep film that is worth dissecting. So please come back later once you've seen Friendship if you haven't watched it yet already. But it's a great movie. Again, the plot is not really spoilable. It's more the jokes.
Yeah.
So let's get into this. The film, plot synopsis wise, is just a suburban dad falls hard for his charismatic new neighbor. That's what it says on Letterboxd. So really, like, you can tell it's more about the jokes and what they mean than it is about the story itself. So Tim Robinson plays a character named Craig Waterman, and he is established very quickly as someone who's socially unaware. He wants to be the center of a room. He wants to be the center of attention, but he doesn't know how to properly interact with people. He's kind of an asshole. He's a square. He's kind of like a stick in the mud. And the film opens with his wife, played by Kate Mara, and she's in a cancer rehabilitation meeting thing with him and talking about her experience of surviving cancer. And what I think is immediately apparent on a rewatch of this movie is that she starts talking about how much the community helped her heal and get past what she went through, and how important the relationships she's formed have been to it. Because I think this is a constant throughout the movie, that she understands the value of community, relationships, and friendships. Her husband does not.
No.
He does not get it. And he's just in the background of the first shot. And Tim Robinson, he's a funny-looking guy. Yeah. And he knows he's a funny-looking guy, and he's always weaponizing that with his comedy. But in this particular scene, it's like you don't notice him, and then you slowly start to notice that he's there. And then he just turns to the camera, and the first thing he says, she says she's worried about her cancer coming back, and he just goes, "It's not going to come back." But it's the way he looks and sounds when he says it. The theater erupts in laughter immediately, and then that does not end until the end of the movie.
Yeah. So immediately we see that he is a selfish person. Like, he only thinks about being in the spotlight himself, rather than allowing his wife to, like, talk about her, traumatic stuff with her cancer. But instead he makes it about him and how it's like,
I'm orgasming just fine.
Yeah, she was having problems, and he feels like
he doesn't even see the problems she's having at all.
No.
Like, she talks about her struggles, and he's just like, well, honestly, I think everything's been pretty awesome. Because I think this is another thing. Like, I think even if he doesn't believe that everything is truly awesome, he's so insecure and he so badly wants to be seen as cool and chill that he will just be like, everything's great, And what I really tuned into watching it again was the fact that this is specifically a movie about, like, a suburban dad's masculinity and how fragile that can be. Like, there's always those suburban dads in movies and TV shows, and I'm sure real life, I haven't really encountered this scenario in real life, but, like, they're always jealous of the new car their neighbor got, or, like, oh, we redid our kitchen, like, all this kind of stuff that's, like, thinly veiled competition between the two men to try and, like, be the bigger man.
Yeah.
And that is what this movie is really getting at in just a ridiculous, over-the-top way.
Yeah. So there's a thing that they talk about earlier in the movie where his wife needs, like, a bigger van for her flower business, because she can't carry all the flowers in the small car that they have currently. And he keeps saying, we'll get a bigger van soon. But he never really acts on that promise. Like, he doesn't make that a priority for her or for them, because it's not important to him. And anything that's important to his wife doesn't seem to be important to him at all, because he's so blinded with his own narcissism.
Yeah, his own kind of self-image and how he's perceived by everyone. And also, in that same way, his wife is always hanging out with this guy, Devin, throughout the film, who's her ex. and he's a firefighter. He's like this really cool, like great guy, but she's always mentioning him, and every time she does, he's like, who? Like
Yeah.
he doesn't even know. And it's like that's something that a husband usually would be like, oh, what are you hanging out with your ex-boyfriend, what do you mean?
Yeah.
But he just doesn't even realize, he doesn't even
He
care.
has such an ego, and he's so not self-aware that he doesn't even see the threat of another guy coming into uh to breaks basically the family.
Right. And then shortly after this, he meets Paul Rudd's character, who's named Austin. He's his neighbor. The whole reason they get brought together is that Austin's mail gets delivered to Craig's house on accident. This happens a couple times when the movie needs to like reunite those two characters. Very clever. And yeah, he goes and returns the package to him. He meets Paul Rudd. It's like this really almost romantic, beautiful moment where he sees Paul Rudd, and Paul Rudd just so cool. He's like smoking a fucking cigarette. It's like in the
Yeah.
morning, I
Yeah.
think. And yeah, he gives him the package, and they just have like a little meet cute, and it's not really huge. It's just like they introduce each other, and they're like, "Oh yeah, nice to meet you." And then Craig leaves and goes to work
Yeah,
at his job at Universal Digital Innovations, I think.
Yeah, so he works as a person. So his job is to basically make people addicted to apps.
And just products and apps. Like basically he works with people to try and design things to be more habit forming.
Yeah.
He's like, we prefer the term habit forming.
Yeah.
It makes them extremely displeased when they stop using the product. It appeals to their most like primal side of the brain or something like that. And he's just like, yeah, and then they just keep using it.
Yeah, so his job is basically just like a form of marketing manipulation, and I think that just is another layer to like who he is, like about being addicted to this new guy that he just met. And
well, I think it's broadly about how like that's how we deal with things, right? Because we live in a world that is making us addicted to apps and shit. Like those people exist that are trying to make that happen. And so that's how we treat relationships as well. It's kind of bled into our human connection as well.
Yeah, it's like if you could give enough charm, like you could find a way to have people like latch on. You don't need as much substance in that relationship. You're just addicted to a certain thing about it. And Paul Rudd's character has a certain thing about him that Craig, the main character, he wants to be a part of that relationship so bad, and I don't think he even knows why. He only sees. He says he could see the future with this guy later on, like a little later on, and how he could see like them having fun together, riding in a new car together, and playing in a band together, but it's not because. It's not anything like substantial. It's more about seeing him be just as charming as Paul Rudd. It's not about the actual relationship. It's how he's being perceived with Paul Rudd, and that's what he wants.
Yeah, I agree. And there's like a scene where he looks ahead. He sees like some kind of apocalyptic future.
Yeah.
He has a vision of where he like somehow saves everybody, brings everybody to like a safe area, and they're like, oh yeah, Craig, go Craig. And it's like all of his desires in the relationship more have to do with him looking so cool just by being next to Paul Rudd and being around him and being accepted by him.
I think I really love that, because I think that is kind of this very that's something I think a lot of people like imagine themselves. They have that little desire of being the hero of the day and being like, yeah, I want people to see me as like that person that they could all be like, oh yeah, they're great, they did it.
The one thing that Craig actually did that like caused any kind of change in his community, and it ironically is like something that would annoy people, is he got speed bumps installed in his neighborhood, and he brags about that to Austin. He's like, yeah, the neighborhood would be a goddamn racetrack without me. And then in the vision that he has later, Paul Rudd's character is like, to Craig, the neighborhood would be a goddamn racetrack without him. So it's like that's the only thing he can actually think of that he's proud of that he did for his community. We also learn about Paul Rudd's job.
Yeah.
And he's a weatherman. He also has a band called Mayor Nichols Sucks. He hates the mayor.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he has a job as a weatherman. He's the nightly weatherman, and Craig encourages him to just ask to be the morning weatherman. Um, and he's like, all you got to do is just ask.
Yeah.
I asked for my own office at work, so now I can eat anything I want in there. Something that's gross, something that stinks, something super embarrassing I don't want people to know about. You just gotta ask. And so yeah, that's what they do. And then he takes him on a bit of a adventure as well.
Yeah, they hang out for like a day and they go like mushroom picking. And there's this funny moment where he just Craig's just starts to slowly sink in like it's probably not quicksand, it's just mud, and he sinks and he just starts freaking out.
Yeah, that's the thing Tim Robinson does really well. It's like such a sudden visceral reaction to like mundane like inconveniences that I think people are really drawn to his comedy for that reason. And a lot of people criticize his comedy for like short attention spans and being stupid and mindless, and I guess I could see someone not liking it in that way, but I think this movie actually utilizes him for very deep purposes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of showcasing how the characters he often plays in like his sketch comedy, the way that he hams it up, like he's representing these kinds of people that definitely exist in real life. They're just not as loud.
Exactly. I think he's really showcasing a deep part of humans that we don't necessarily love to see about ourselves, but he's like doing it in such a exaggerated comedic way that it is funny, and you're like, I have done that before and I did look stupid doing that, but it's funny. Like I can look back on it and still laugh
right
about it.
Or some people like they just don't want to admit it,
yeah,
so that's why maybe his comedy makes them very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They do go mushroom picking, but they also, Paul Rudd takes him into the sewers, and he's like, yeah, we're going to go on an adventure. He takes him into the sewers, and then, again, another moment like the quicksand moment, he's trying to get up this ledge that Paul Rudd got up, and he's just like, it's not very high, but he's like hanging off, and he's like screaming like he's going to fucking die.
It's so funny.
And the sewers lead under the, what is it?
It's
the
like
Capitol or something. Like it's a government place.
It's like some
city
state, like hall.
City Hall. That's what it is. Why did I blank on that? So the caverns lead to City Hall, underneath it, and they go onto the roof and they like smoke a cigarette. That's where he tells him to just ask for the morning news position. When they're picking mushrooms as well, Craig loses his phone in the mud, and Paul Rudd's like, "Oh." He's like, can you call my phone? And Paul Rudd's like, no, I'm looking at a free man right now. I don't have a phone. You don't need a phone. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And that's when they find a sports car that Paul Rudd's character really wants, this yellow car.
Yeah, and he tells Craig that if I ever get a car like this, you're going to be the first one to ride in it with me because you've helped me, I guess, talk about the job.
Yeah, he helped him out. He's like, you're my good luck charm or something.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that the phone being lost is like kind of like a reoccurring situation for him.
Yeah,
that
exactly. It's kind of like the mail.
Yeah.
Being sent incorrectly.
But yeah, eventually he's Paul Rudd invites him over to like a hangout with his friends, just kind of like a small get together with everybody, and I think that's when that's when the point of the movie comes through. I don't know. So there's a lot that happens, just like a domino effect of just weird interactions.
So he shows up. And he goes outside, I think, to smoke or something. And there's a sliding glass door. And when he tries to walk back in, he's like trying to pull himself together because he's really nervous. He tries to walk back in. He just hits that shit really hard. And then he, walks back in normally and everyone's staring at him. And then the window just fucking breaks behind him. And he kind of is able to play it off. He's like, so how'd y'all meet?
Yeah.
And then, Yeah, they're
It was,
chill about it. They
yeah,
like laugh it off.
it was a pretty good save, even though he broke the guy's glass door. But they're just like, okay, he kind of has a bit of a humor with it.
Yeah.
And then they do a little sing along.
And I told you, Adrian, we should do this. You don't want to do this with me, and I don't understand why.
Well, I don't sing. I don't like
but
singing.
you could though.
But
I mean, you like just imagine us and our two other roommates just in the kitchen, just like on some a cappella shit, just like harmonizing this song. My Boo is the song they sing.
it's
amazing.
If you've seen the trailer, it's pretty similar to what's happens in the trailer, but it's still so funny. He's like, what is happening?
Yeah,
right
he's
now?
just kind of like staring around.
But
there's a guy like they're like supporting each other too.
Yeah.
This is like something again. Craig just doesn't involve himself with or understand. Is like there's one of Austin's friends is talking about how his daughter is like growing up
Developing
and she's
too much.
developing too much, and like guys are looking at her weird, and it's making him upset.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's when they just start singing to support him.
It's so funny because I don't know what I would do in that situation either, to be honest. Like, if just a bunch of guys I didn't really know just started singing.
You join in.
I guess you can't. And the thing is, he feels like he is included in that group because of that. Like, he feels like they're really, like, taking him in. And when they start doing the next activity that they want to do, which is, like, have a little sparring, like, little boxing thing where they just, I guess they just have some gloves and a little head cover, and they just kind of go at it, and Craig goes a little bit too far.
Yeah, he punches Austin like really hard when they hadn't even started. Like they have like a guy that's like telling them when to go.
Yeah.
And he, after there's not supposed to be fighting anymore, he just fucking punches the shit out of Austin, knocks him on the ground, and he's like, winner. And he doesn't really apologize for it at all. He's just like, the only thing he does, instead of apologizing for it, is he grabs a bar of soap, and he's like, I know my punishment. And he tries to kind of do the same thing he did with the door, make it funny, but it's like so cringy. Like,
it's like,
he puts the soap in his mouth. He's like, oh, I'm sorry.
well, that's the thing. It's to amend the situation, all he really had to do was immediately say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you that hard, or I went a bit too far, I didn't mean to do that. But instead, he just kind of played it out like it was normal, and then when he saw that it wasn't normal, he was like, well, I should do something about it. Let me put a bar of soap in my mouth. And it's like, no, you're just making it weird because you just found out that you're guilty, but you're also like, you didn't even know that you were guilty for doing something so stupid.
Yeah.
And that ruins the night for everybody. And it basically ruins the relationship for most of the movie.
Yeah, and Austin does not want to be friends anymore after that.
No.
He kind of is cordial with him a little bit because I guess they're still kind of friends with Craig's wife. And there's a part where Craig shows up to Austin's work unannounced, and he's doing the morning weather, and it kind of trips Austin up because he sees that Craig is there, and then goes over to him. He's like, what are you doing here? And then there's this little girl like dressed in a costume for one of the programs, and he's like, are you a little doll? Or something. And then Craig's like, hey, no, I was thinking we could go try the SEAL Team 6 meal at Rick's bar. It's the meal that they ate after they Am I allowed to say this on the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, it happened.
It's the meal that they ate after they killed Osama.
Yeah, and it's like a huge meal.
He says it's 22,000 calories. It's got ribs, mac and cheese, and then he looks confused. He's like, Caesar salad. To me, that is the funniest shit because he just is so worried about being uncool that he doesn't even want to act like he likes salad.
Yeah.
Because he's just got all these misguided ideas of what actually makes a person cool.
Yeah.
But we'll see a little later on, so does Austin a little bit. They both kind of have their own game that they're playing. Mm-hmm. And I think because we're so fixed on Craig's perspective, we don't really see as much of it from the other side, but there's definitely like a falsehood to like both of their personalities. But I think Austin has kind of mastered what he's doing and is more self-aware of it.
Yeah.
Whereas Craig is just, he's trying to get there, but he just can't.
He's so
he
stupid.
can't really perform in the same way.
And yeah, and he buys like a drum set because he wanted to be a part of the band so much and jam, and he shows it to Austin, and that's when Austin's like, dude, you bought a drum set, like a whole drum set, green and everything, like.
Even though he told him to.
Yeah, but that's also the moment where Austin's like, I don't think we should hang out anymore. Like, it was cool while it was, but I just don't think we're a vibe.
Yeah, that shit was weird. What you did the other night was weird.
And
Also, like, he's revealed to have a phone as well. Like, he
Yeah.
was totally lying about not having a
Yeah.
phone, so that plays into what I was saying earlier.
But also, it also showcases that Craig is, like, he is such a selfish person. He would put all this money into buying a brand new drum set, then to buy his wife a new van.
Yeah, constantly throughout the movie, he's buying things when he could. Like, it's set up at the beginning, he could buy that van, but he just buys almost anything else.
Yeah.
Just to look cool. He even buys, like you said, like 2 new phones throughout the movie, and the phone store employee, he tries to kind of befriend him as well, because it's during that awkward moment where, like, he and Austin aren't doing too well, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna go to Rick's bar and have a drink. Do you want to come with me? He's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm 18, but let me know if you want something stronger than alcohol.
Yeah.
So that'll come back later. So he gets another piece of mail for Austin, and he goes to bring it. Austin's not there, and he literally hops the fence and walks through the hole he made in the glass window and tries to put it inside his house, but really he's just there to look around. And what's so funny is that at the same time, Craig is also tasked with being helping the mayor with his next campaign for, his whole advertising product like thing that he does for work.
Yeah.
And so not only is he not friends with Austin, he's also helping the mayor, which Austin has a band named Mayor Nichols Sucks. So, it's like Craig doesn't actually have a conviction or a passion for anything. He's just kind of like going through the motions and trying to figure out whatever makes him look the best at any given moment, and it just changes on a dime. But basically he breaks into Austin's house and he answers a fucking work call like while he's in Austin's office, while Austin's wife is like in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And he's like, shit, and he finds a gun. It says, like, storms a comin'. It's a golden pistol, and he takes it out of the house, and I don't even think he puts the mail there. I think he just takes everything.
I think the scene is so funny because he just breaks in the house and just starts doing stuff inside the house.
He just kind of sits in the chair.
Doesn't he like clean their dishes or something, or like puts it away?
I can't remember, but I think maybe
he does. Like he's just hanging around the house. Then he goes into Austin's office, finds Austin's gun, and he's like looking at it. He gets the phone call from his work. While he's doing all this stuff, and then he hears that Austin's wife is still at home the entire time. She's just like sleeping or something, and she has to use the bathroom. And it's almost like it almost goes into like this weird kind of suspenseful, maybe horror tone, where you just have the stranger in someone's house just going about.
It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, but it's also so funny because he's in this situation. Now he has to take a phone call, like a work call, and they're like, "Dude, are you there?" Like,
and then he's like hopping over the fence like halfway through. He's like, "Yeah, I'm here."
He has a gun.
I didn't have a phone for a while. It was an experiment or something.
And
he just takes the gun, like he's holding the gun when he realizes Austin's wife is there, and he just takes it. He doesn't put it back. He just takes it with him.
It's ridiculous. It's so funny and like scary at the same time. It's so interesting.
Yeah. And then shortly after this is when he's talking to Tammy, his wife, again, and Tammy is just kind of like, she mentions her ex again, and Craig just doesn't fucking remember. He doesn't know who she's talking about, and she gets really disappointed because she's like, what the fuck? I've mentioned this so many times. What do you mean you don't know who this is? And she looks really disappointed. She's cooking because they were supposed to have Austin and Tammy over. Austin and Bianca, which is Austin's wife, over. And she's like, can you call them and ask if they have something? It was something. And then he pretends to call Austin and pretends that Austin is like sick or something they had to cancel. And so he's like, you know what? You want to go on an adventure? And so he takes his wife to the same sewer spot.
But it's like a labyrinth down there. He doesn't know where he's going.
He finds the same like little ledge that you have to hop up to get under City Hall. And he has his wife go up there, and then he's even like, she's like, we shouldn't be doing this. He's like, you wanted to try something new. You wanted to try something different. You're healthy. Like, we're here now. And he's like, just go on ahead of me and I'll be right with you. And I'm like, he doesn't want his wife to even see him like struggle to get up the ledge. And so she turns the corner and he hops up there and he goes up there and she's gone.
He can find her.
She just disappeared.
She's lost. And
it's also another horror scene.
I felt like I knew that was going to happen in a sense, because when he first goes into a sewer, he loses like a shoe. Like behind, and he never gets it back. So if he were to go back,
let's assume that he gets it back. They're like, we'll get it back on the way out.
Oh, did they say that? Okay, I missed that then. Okay, never mind then.
Well,
but I assumed that he lost it and it was just there. And if he were to come back, he would have seen the shoe, but he didn't. But I
don't think they show it.
Yeah.
But that actually would have been pretty cool if it was like, oh, the shoe's just gone. It's like magic. Shit just disappears down there.
But it would have made sense because he was in the wrong place. So that was the wrong. Anyway, if that's not the case, and that's not the case, he loses his wife.
Yeah. And he
just goes
He drops
home.
his phone again.
He loses
his phone again. And then he has a lighter and he's like, what the fuck? Like, he's so scared. And then he just goes home and kind of acts like nothing's wrong for a minute. And on top of this, when Austin took him to the tunnels, he was like, quick, before the pigs see us through there. But then Austin shows up to his house with the police because he broke in.
Yeah.
And he says, the dog tracked a scent from their break-in to your house. And he goes, so you think the same guy broke into my house too? Or... and then Austin's like, you broke into my house.
He's actually like, the way he goes about it, it's like he's lying pretty well.
No, it's the most convincing thing in the whole movie that he lies about.
But this situation informs them that Tammy's like lost in the sewers, and like how they know that she's in the sewers. And he's like, well, Austin showed me how to break in. And they're like, you guys are breaking in and
it's not trespassing, it's adventure.
Yeah, and so now instead of this being a thing where he stole the gun and he broke in, they're now having the whole police like looking for his wife in the sewers, and it just pivots into a totally different direction.
Yeah, they're like lifting the dog up the ledge. It's super funny.
Yeah.
And then, Austin's like, oh, I know these tunnels. Can I take a lead? And you're like, you're a trespasser. And they arrest them. and they're arresting Craig, and he's like, I am an employee of Universal Digital Innovations. You guys are fucking pigs. He called you guys fucking pigs. It's this guy's fault. And they go to jail. Yeah. And they're locked in jail, and Austin's like charming the fucking officers. He's just talking to them. He's like, hanging out with them. Craig's just sitting there. And then Austin turns around and he's like, this is the last thing I need right now. I can't believe you did this. And he slips on a puddle of piss and hairpiece falls off. Yeah. Austin's hair is fake.
Yeah. He's balding basically.
Yeah. And Craig kind of sees that, and he like does this hilarious thing where he like tries not to look.
Yeah.
He's like,
it's like, I didn't see
anything. I didn't see anything. And then, he just puts it back on, and then he's like, you're good.
But
I think that's interesting.
It reveals that Austin is not the person that, Craig thought he was. He's still hiding things that
But he still
true.
like respects him enough to be like, I'm not looking.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Anyway, they get out of jail. Tammy's still missing, and Craig actually kind of breaks down like when that happens, because now his wife's missing. The guy that he thought was a friend isn't his friend anymore, and he's just kind of struggling right now. But does he go to work back to work?
Yeah, I can't remember if this happens before or... Oh, yes.
He does go back to work.
I was going to say there is a part where there are these guys that are always smoking outside of his job.
Yeah.
And he tries to invite them over, and be the Austin for them
yeah.
and bring them into his garage with his drum set and shit. And like they keep making Marvel references, and there's this whole thing through the whole movie about a Marvel that they call it a Marvel that's out that he hasn't seen yet, and he's like, no fucking spoilers, seriously, no Marvel spoilers, I like to go in fresh, don't do that. And I think he's just saying that because
it's performative.
He thinks that that's what he's supposed to think. He thinks that that's what he's supposed to think, and he thinks that he's supposed to care about Marvel spoilers. And yeah, and even vague shit, like he's hitting the drums and they're like, dude, this guy's like the Hulk, and he's like, all right, get the fuck out of here. It's like, bro, the Hulk just smashes stuff. That's not even a spoiler. But he does go back into work, and he's working on the mayor's campaign. And his idea for the mayor's campaign was like, Mayor Nichols is your friend. He kind of projects that whole desire for friendship into the presentation he makes. And then the next guy goes up, and the next guy's like, what if it was Mayor Nichols, superhero? And it's just Mayor Nichols in a superhero costume, and Mayor Nichols is like, I look like a Marvel. And then Tim Robinson gets so mad at the presentation getting like a better reaction than his that he's like, you know what? Hold on, guys. I just got an inspiration. How about Mayor Nichols, coward, pig, fuck? And they're like, his wife just went missing. Don't mind him. And he's like, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. Don't pick me up, Ian.
He has like the worst crash out.
He crashes out.
He goes out, and I think that's also like weirdly another like subtext and layer about the film industry, about how like you could put something out, a movie about friendship versus a movie about superheroes, and people are going to go for the superheroes rather than something more intimate and nuanced. Instead, they want something like really big and exciting.
Yeah, and they want the addictive stuff.
Yeah,
right. And the quick and easy stuff.
And I think that's just a way of the movie saying like this is what is reality at the moment. It's like we're trying to go for something more smaller, intimate, and something that could actually work and make people want this mayor to be their mayor. But instead we're pushing towards something.
He's just trying to like
more,
be cool. Like it's
branding,
the same. It's kind of the same thing. Like the mayor just needs to look cool. He doesn't actually need to be someone's friend. He just needs to look cool enough to where everyone wants to be his friend.
Exactly.
And that is basically a microcosm of what is going on with the film. Speaking of which, I just want to briefly mention Tammy's flower business, which I think is a huge thematic element in the movie, because she's always waxing poetic about flowers and how if you really look into them, it looks like someone painted that, or it looks like something very beautiful and very specifically nurtured in nature to look that way and to be the way that it is. And she talks about it with such reverence, and I think that the flowers are the juxtaposing element to what we're talking about with modern technology and society and consumption, is that people don't want to nurture and grow a friendship and be patient with a friendship to make something beautiful out of it. They want the quick, easy, like, I just want to, like, appear cool and kind of have this fake friendship instead. That's not actually built on respect and trust, but rather just on making me look better. That's why when we said earlier, like, there's this movie is very, like, pretty deep, like, in what the themes is trying to say. And I don't know if everybody's going to see that the first time around, but that's why it's kind of great that it is such a rewatchable movie, so you could get like you'll eventually get hit with that, and that's why it's so fantastic that it's so funny at the same time. But it's only, the thing is, a lot of people, I think, similar to Tim Robinson's comedic style, might see this movie as mindless in that same way and kind of write it off. But what I think makes it funny is the fact that it has a lot of nuance to it and a lot of things that it's trying to explore that a lot of people, might not really look for and might overlook. But I think that, it's just a movie that's made so much better by all of that stuff that it's bringing to the table. Yeah.
And we kind of get that glimpse when he breaks down after all this, he's basically hit rock bottom.
He gets fired.
Yeah. Then Tammy's found. She comes back.
Yeah,
she's
in a
found
trauma
after
blanket.
being lost for like a few days.
Yeah, she gets found. They have a welcome home party for her.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like a hilarious cameo from Connor O'Malley, who's kind of another comedian of this generation. And he walks into Craig's garage. Craig is playing drums by himself in the garage while his wife is having her welcome home party. Mm-hmm. And I think he was just waiting for somebody to come in there and notice what he was doing and talk to him about it because he wants attention so bad.
Yeah.
And Connor O'Malley comes in. He's like, "Oh, hey, I was looking for the restroom." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, it's right there." And then they kind of go back and forth about the drum set. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I like the green. Very 70s. Very 70s." He's like, yeah, that's what I was going for. Is it very 70s? Yeah, good decade. Great music. Economically, could have been better. And then he's like, "How does it feel?" And Craig is like, "Oh, to have Tammy back? Yeah, it feels great." He goes, "No, how does it feel to abandon your wife?" And then he just goes, "You can't use my fucking toilet." And they just go back and forth.
Who the hell are you?
Yeah, he's like, "You should be dead. I would give anything just to be in a non-sexual relationship with her. You know, she's so beautiful. You don't appreciate her." It's just this random fucking guy.
He's right.
He's right. He's right. But he's wearing a Vietnam veteran hat. He's right. He's just in a randomly dropped in, and so all these people that are at this party, a lot of them we've never met before in the story, and I think that's because, like the opening scene suggests, Tammy is extremely connected to her community and has a ton of friends that, because we're in Craig's perspective, we don't fucking see, because he doesn't know any of them. He doesn't bother to get to know any of them. He's only worried about himself.
So when I watched this movie, I kind of wondered, like, how he even got with Tammy. Like, how could a guy like this get with a girl like that? And I think it kind of, after thinking about it and talking about it, I think I figured that they were probably neutral. Like, they were fine. Like, he was probably, obviously he wasn't okay, but he was probably more normal. And then when she had her cancer and everybody, like, came to her and, like, became friends with her and supported her and made more friends, and he didn't have really any core friendship, it was kind of like jealousy.
He like had to share her.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the reason why he's at the point where he's at, where he's so he feels unseen compared to his wife. And
I think you're right. I also think it's interesting to wonder if Tammy really had all these powerful connections with the community and her friends before her cancer. Yeah. Because, you know, I could definitely see that happening where he's like, "Oh, what the fuck?" Like, now everyone's only paying attention to her and, like, everybody wants her attention. Like, what about me? Yeah. Sort of thing. But I also wonder if she received a lot more attention from that than before, and maybe, you know, that could also be that is also, I think, something that happens when someone has, like, a health issue like that. Suddenly everyone cares about them a lot. Yeah. You know, and, you know, even if they weren't being as kind to them beforehand. Yeah. That's not really something that's explored in the movie. You have to really just make an assumption, but it is something that about relationships that I think is interesting and that does happen. Yeah. And I guess that's just a little excuse, I guess, for him. But he's still, like, he's so narcissistic. Like, when, like, during the party, he does a little, like, a toast to her coming back, but it obviously just becomes about him again. And he even uses the same speech he kind of narrates with Austin, where he's like, "I can see the future. We're on the edge of life, and the view is great." Yeah, just recycles the same thing. Yeah.
All he had to be was like, "I'm so happy that my wife is back, and she's not hurt, and she's like, I was so worried about her, and you guys are here to support her, and we're gonna continue to be great, and, like, we're gonna try to strive and move forward." Something like that. Something as simple as that.
He's kind of trying to do that, but he doesn't realize how he's wording it and how he's delivering it is wrong.
It's like, he just makes it, and, like, when other people try to do toast, and their toasts are better and more supportive of his wife.
Like Devin, the
Yeah,
ex-boyfriend,
and he gets to see how
he gets jealous.
Yeah.
He gets mad immediately.
And it just kind of showcases like it when all you think about is yourself. You're not gonna get anybody else's like sympathies or respect because it's just always gonna be about you. And I don't know, the way to get to people, the way to have friends and make friends is to actually care about other people, actually care about like and support what they want to do and have. And if you don't, then you're not going to receive the same back. And I think that's just another big like theme about this is that if you just look onward to yourself, you're not going to see like everybody else. Like it takes a while for him to see the facade that Austin is under because they kind of have to like go through these random situations for him to kind of reveal like Austin was never the person he initially thought. But he probably could have gotten to that point easier and better if he just actually made a genuine connection with Austin and was like an actual friend. Maybe at some point Austin would have revealed that, hey, this isn't real here. I just do it because I'm insecure about it. But instead it had to be through a stupid situation in which they're caught in jail and he slips over and his wig falls off, and now he knows something about Austin that Austin didn't even want him to know about. And it's like he's forcing these relationship and these friendships because he's so selfish, but it's pushing people farther away from him because of it.
Absolutely. I think you're right about all of that. And that's what makes this movie so great is you can kind of see like all these faults and like basically just the human experience and like something that a lot of people kind of go through and have to learn. You're just seeing it all portrayed in this very like over the top kind of cringy way.
Yeah.
But it's identifiable as like very relatable, or you at least know somebody like this in your life for sure. And so after this, when they're standing on doing the toast at the party, and Devin does his toast, he's like, okay, listen, we're kind of doing a free for all here. You want to do a toast? Stand on the chair. And then Connor O'Malley gets up there, and Craig goes outside, and he's like smoking by himself. And then Connor O'Malley gets up there. He's like, "Oh, I'm so nervous now that I'm up here." And then it doesn't show you what he says. And then at the end, he's just like, "By the way, we should have never left Afghanistan." And that
it brings the house down every time.
I want to mention that just because that was the hardest I laughed the first time I saw it. It's
so fun. And there's also like this thing where he's constantly seeing people outside of his window from work, like there are guys smoking cigarettes hanging out.
Yeah.
And now it's like reversed. Now he's the one outside of the window smoking outside, but he's still alone. And so in a way he's getting to that point where he's kind of like those guys. Like he's not doing good for him. So he's like in that toxic realm where he doesn't know like how to be a good person, because those guys that he's not friends with, his coworkers, I don't think those guys are probably good people. They're probably in a toxic male friendship themselves, and that's what he wants. He wants to be in a toxic male friendship.
Yeah, I think the difference between him and Austin really is that ironically, his job is to create products that are addicting. He doesn't realize that he is like the consumer.
Yeah.
Like all these things he's talking about, all his versions of hanging out is consuming stuff. He either wants to go get the SEAL Team 6 meal at Rick's Bar and eat 22,000 calories together because that's fun, right? Or he, wants to get a drink with somebody, or he's doing like I don't know. I feel like he just thinks he needs to like offer these kind of joys to people, these kind of dopamine hits to people, because that's his job. But then at the same time, he doesn't realize how he's falling for his own facade, because Austin is the addictive person. Like he's the substance that he's after, which is like a really good, like kind of picturesque male friendship where it's just like it just looks like one.
Yeah.
And Austin, he's kind of mastered just being this thing that people want and want to be around.
Yeah.
But he's doing it in, like, I would say intentionally. Like, he's just putting on, like, this kind of way about him that makes him feel better.
Yeah.
And he's figured out that. So he's figured out how to, like, be the supply, whereas Craig is, like, the demand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so after this, he goes back to the phone store because I think he's still lost his phone after Tammy went missing. And he asks the phone store kid, who's played by Billy Brick, who co-directed Hell of a Summer with Finn Wolfhard this year. Good movie. Yeah. He asks him, I want to try some of that stuff that's stronger than alcohol that you got. And then he's like, all right, hey, boss, I'm going on break. He, like, takes him into the back of the phone store, and he shows him this toad that you can lick to get, like, a trip.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's $100 for a lick. And Craig's just like, I'm out of ideas. Just pulls out his wallet. And then, like, this is another thing. At this point in the story, he's so insecure and so fragile that he is latching on to, like, every little bit of kindness he gets, where, like, this kid, he's like, oh, you gave me too much. Here's $20 back. And he, like, is amazed by that. Like, he's like, I love you.
Yeah.
Even the kid, he says he's, like, very spiritual. Like, when he sits him down to, you know, go on the drug trip, he's like, I love you. It's going to be okay. You're about to enter. You're going to feel a pain that is like nothing else, but then a beauty that's can't even be described. Yeah. And he leaves. He's like, I got to go get 2 Red Bulls or something.
Yeah.
He leaves. And Craig's like, I did some work for Red Bull. They were so mean to me. And then he enters a trip, which this is...
He licks the toad, yeah.
This is one of the best parts, in my opinion, because I think this is a joke that's going to be very overlooked.
Yeah. So, basically, when he licks the frog, he has a hallucination that he goes into a Subway, and the person behind the counter is is Austin, but he's, like, kind of older, and he's wearing a Subway hat and everything, and he orders a Subway, and then he wakes up.
It's so funny because it's so casual. It's like, oh, what's for lunch today, Craig? And he's like, how about a ham on Italian herbs and cheese bread? And he's like, okay, not toasted, I assume. He's like, you know what, toast it. Like, they have this little interaction, and then he looks up back at the ceiling, and then suddenly just the phone store kid comes back in a frame and just goes, welcome back, Craig. I mean, it catches you so off guard. It's so well done because it makes you feel disoriented as well.
Yeah.
But the thing that I love about this joke is that not only is it really fucking random and funny, but also not that random, just like everything else, because that is sort of what happened with his friendship with Austin. Is like, you know, his mouth is watering. He wants a Subway sandwich. Austin's there. He's like, I'm the provider. What can I get you? And they're like having this little discussion of like what you know, what their transaction is going to be. And then he wakes up. Yeah. And that's kind of what happened. It's like Austin was like this golden opportunity in front of him from his perspective. He's like, oh, this is great. I think it's very intentional to have Austin play the Subway guy.
Yeah.
And so he kind of was ready to take what Austin was ready to give him, and then it just got denied to him, like, immediately.
It's so funny because even the kids, like, you didn't like,
how long did it feel? Yeah. He's like, it felt like 45 seconds or something.
What did you do? I ordered.
He's like, yeah, I went to a Subway. Well, what happened? I ordered.
I think it's actually super, super good. It's super funny because, again, it's these jokes that seem just so random, but they're so actually so deep and thoughtful in what they're doing.
It's so good. And then after this, so he does have like a little monologue narration after this where he and Tammy split up because Tammy says she's going to go live at Devin's pool house until she can find a place of her own. And she says, my mom never left my narcissistic father. You know that. I'm not going to let that happen to me. You know, you're a narcissist. I'm leaving you. And so she leaves him. He kind of is depressed. He gets a new job getting like putting tickets on people's windows. He like delivers parking tickets to people. And what he says, he repeats a line here. When a guy gets mad at him for giving him a ticket, he says, people need rules. And he says that to Austin earlier when Austin says, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. He goes, you guys accepted me so fast, you can't do that. People need rules. And I think what he's saying is that I need to be able to be told what I can and can't do and what's appropriate, because he has no sensor for that. He has no like radar for social stuff like that. Yeah. And I think he's so used to, because of where he works and what he's kind of drenched in all the time, being told like what is good, what is bad, what is acceptable, what is not, like this is what you should do. And so he kind of needs something to hold his hand and tell him how to be a person. And so I think that's the fact that it's said twice. I think it's a significant line. Maybe I haven't gotten it exactly right, but broadly that's kind of what I get from it. And I think in a way, that sort of way of looking at it, it's like he can be a character you can sympathize with, especially because, like I said, you know somebody like this probably, or you are somebody like this, or you have some tendencies that he does. Obviously, it's very exaggerated in the movie, but I think there's a little Craig in all of us. I think a little bit of a desire to be cooler and kind of think of yourself.
Again, a lot of the humor in this is so self-revealing, and it's like this is like what people usually sometimes think about and
they won't say.
And they won't say it or do it because it's so cringy and like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or when I look back at that situation, I could have done it differently. But it goes to such extremes that you could still laugh at it.
And also, on top of that, there's a little bit of Austin in all of us as well. Because, you know, I think all of us put on just a little bit of how cool we want to be seen. Yeah. And we all have things that we're insecure about that we don't want other people to see as well. And after this, Craig kind of learns a little bit. He begins to mend his life. He actually buys Tammy the van. Mm-hmm. Tammy comes to visit for their son's birthday, who we didn't mention, but he's a recurring character in the movie. He's kind of
pretty funny.
He has like a weird, intimate relationship with his mom. They like kiss on the lips.
And Craig sees it. He's like, "You guys kiss on the lips."
That's another thing. He can't even win. He feels like outcasted in his own house. Like he's not even as intimate with his wife as fucking his own son is.
And his son's like polyamorous or something. He has like 2 girlfriends.
Yeah. Also, he did. There was only one like sexual moment between the two of them. With him and Tammy, Craig and Tammy, is like he goes into bed after he's like first friends with Austin. He feels really cool and high on himself. He's like, "Can I wake you up with a lick?" And she's like, "Is the door locked?" He's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Okay." And then he starts to almost do it, and then the smoke alarm goes off or something. He's like, "Oh shit, the stove!" And he just runs out. Or his son calls him, one or the other.
Yeah.
But yeah, she visits for their son's birthday. Everything goes pretty well. I mean, a guy backs his chair into her at the restaurant, and he like sticks up for her in kind of a noble way. He's like, "Hey, you know, you should apologize to this lady. You just rammed her with your chair." And the dude apologizes, but he gets so freaked out by just the idea of doing that. He's like, "We have to get the fuck out of here. We have to leave right now."
Yeah.
And after they get home, Tammy's kind of visiting a little bit, and her and Craig have like a nice interaction where they talk about, "Oh, you look good. Have you lost weight?" Like that sort of thing. And then there's a piece of mail for Austin. And Craig makes the healthy choice. He says, "You know what, son? You go bring this to him."
Yeah.
But then Craig has to go buy candles. And he takes the new van for a spin. And when he's out there, he sees that Austin has that sports car.
Yeah.
That he said that he would be the first ride in before. And
yeah, so basically he goes in one direction and then slowly turns around and then goes towards towards Austin's house. And he's flooring this new van that he just got.
Even though they're fucking neighbors,
yeah,
he
just drives so fast, and he goes over one of the bumpers that he installed for the well, he had the
Speed
state
bumps.
installed
Yeah.
for the neighborhood, and he wrecks the brand new the van, and he just goes crazy. He breaks in again,
Yeah,
goes through the back.
he goes through the same place, yeah. And he just walks in. Like the glasses are placed. He walks in there.
Yeah.
He opens it, and then he's like, "Hey, what's up, guys?"
Yeah,
like,
yeah, and
starts to act cool.
and they're just like, "What are you doing here? Nobody invited you. Like, you can't be here. You got to leave." And
He's like, I forget his name, but he's like, "Oh man, I just keep thinking about your busty daughter that everyone's staring at." He says to the guy that was it's fucking crazy.
he just and then he takes the gun out and he points it at everybody.
Yeah,
He's
he apologizes first. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
He's like, I'm I do one thing and you guys just throw me out.
yeah,
Like, I'm sorry, but what the fuck? Maybe you guys are the bad guys. Like, I do one thing. And Austin kind of extends an olive branch. He's like, okay, yeah, no, you want to go see the new car? Let's go. He's kind of trying to get him out of there.
yeah.
But he's being nice about it. And then he's like, he fucking pulls the gun out and he's just like, no, ask me questions. Get to know me. Give me another chance. You guys need to ask me things. And so I think at this point in the movie, he's kind of starting to understand what a friendship actually is.
Yeah.
But he's trying to speed run it now.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I need to fix the thing with Austin. And so he apologizes and it doesn't like entirely land and it works. So he's like, fuck it. I'm pulling the gun out. and
it freaks everybody out. And yeah, he thinks that like being friends is like knowing things about each other, and even at some point that like people do ask him questions. They're like, "What's your favorite? What did they say? Food or something?"
Yeah, he says, "What's your favorite food?" He's like, "I can't think right now. I'm too fucking stressed."
He can't even answer the questions, and they're just in this weird situation. And then the gun goes off, and everybody just ducks down.
Yeah, so I think someone tries to take it or something. It shoots the ceiling. Everyone goes down. Austin's hairpiece falls off again. And Craig takes the opportunity because he has the gun. He's like, nobody look at me. Nobody even fucking look at me. Because he's trying to get Austin. Like, he signals to him. He's like, yo, your hairpiece.
Yeah, he's like it's one of the weird things where he still has respect for Austin.
He's protecting him.
Yeah. He doesn't want Austin's like
he doesn't want anyone to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like weirdly admirable, but like that's the thing that kind of makes him a better friend than he should be.
Yeah.
And obviously someone called the police. The police is on the way.
He's like, oh, you guys are fucking rats. You called the cops. And then he runs out the same window and breaks it again. And
that's right.
And then so this is the ending of the film. As he's getting arrested and put into the car, it's this heroic moment for Austin. The garage opens. He's like holding Craig and taking him to the cops. And then as Craig's getting put in the police car, I am not fucking shitting you. It is a direct reference to La La Land, intentionally. Absolutely. There is no way it's not. This movie is incredibly artfully done in the cinematography and the scoring. It is a funny movie, but they did it on purpose. They are like homaging actual serious like classic fucking films in this. Like, it's something we didn't really talk about, but the production of this movie and the way the technical aspects are fantastic.
Yeah.
And they don't really always have to be, but they always are. And so this is a direct reference. I don't care what anybody says. They look at each other and there is a hypothetical like flashback vision of what their friendship could have been.
Yeah.
Where it's the same moment when he was leaving after punching him, but it's like he didn't punch him.
Yeah.
And everyone's cool with him and everyone's saying goodbye to Craig and they're all accepting of him. And then him and Austin like say goodbye and he's like, I love you, Rockstar. And he's like, I love you too, Craigie. And then it closes the garage. And then it cuts back to reality. And you see them kind of stare at each other, and Austin smiles and winks at him.
Yeah.
And then Craig kind of smiles. And it's this moment of respect between them that they finally come to this understanding at the end of who each other are. And that's, I think, my whole idea on this movie is just that it says men shouldn't have friends.
Yeah.
But it's really that in order to have friends, men need to have respect for other people.
Yeah.
And for one another. And that's, I think, just the perfect cherry on top to this movie.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know if I don't think I even did I log this on Letterboxd?
You did,
I
yeah.
did. Yeah, I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was like on my initial viewing. I was like, yeah, this is damn near
Absolutely. I mean,
perfect.
I wasn't even 100% certain giving it 5 stars at first, but I did. And that's because I know I'm going to watch it several other times.
Yeah,
And I'm going to eventually land there anyway. Because I think it just might be a perfect film.
yeah. Especially with what it's trying to do and say and be,
Yeah.
and it's totally unique too. Like there are not comedies out there like this that I can think of at the moment.
No, again, like I said, I think it's a movie that had to be made now, or that like could only. It feels like it could only be made now,
Yeah,
but that will be watched for a long time and enjoyed for a long time.
yeah.
And I think that it is genuinely excellent. I also, say 5 apples out of 5 on this one. I guess that's what we
Five
say.
boxes out of 5 for me.
Yeah, 5 apples in the box out of 5.
But we also wanted to kind of go over some other male friendship movies and how some of them treat it well, and it's like this is a good male friendship movie, and how some of them go the opposite direction, and it's like this is a bad male friendship movie. Did you want to start?
Sure. So you just rewatched this recently, so maybe you can give us some thoughts. Fight Club.
Yeah, Fight Club's great movie. Not in like that film broy way, but it's like actually like a masterpiece of a movie. That out of the way, when you think about, obviously they're not friends. Spoilers, I guess, for Fight Club if you haven't seen it. Tyler Durden and Edward Norton's character, they're the same guy, but they represent the toxic male friendship to a T. Like it's constantly a certain amount of like competition and looking at the world as if you're better than it and that you're smarter than it and you're trying to one up each other, and they utilize this sense of almost like a culty, like collaborative effort of everybody following this one guy who seems to just know, like he's like the coolest guy ever, kind of like how Austin is in Friendship. He's like the coolest guy ever.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to hang out
Yeah.
with him, and that's like the toxic thing about it. It's like they're all following this alpha male type, and if you have that in a group of friends, if some guy is like the main guy, that's not a real friendship. You're following a leader, and that's not a friendship. That is an organization.
Yeah.
And no one is better than another person. If someone is better, if you're in a friendship in which you think that your friend is a better person than you, and you're like, see them,
they're like a leader.
Yeah, then it's not a true friendship. That's more of like a leader.
You're telling me
thing.
we aren't friends?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, to be true friends, you have to have mutual respect on an equal level, on an equal plane, or else.
And you have to respect that each other are different too. You can't just be I mean, in Fight Club, they literally are the same guy, but you can't just be like this trying to make each other into the same person. You gotta. If we were different, I say this a lot. If people were not different, we would not be stronger together. That's what I like to say.
Yeah, and you could learn from each other's like strengths and differences, but no person or several people within a friendship or a group of friends should be considered better or worse than each other, because that's not a friendship. That's some kind of hierarchy.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be on the same level of respect for each other for it to work and to blossom and get better.
Right.
And that's why Fight Club is a bad example of what a male friendship looks like.
But maybe, is it a super bad example? What about the movie Superbad?
We did talk about how Superbad is like how a good friendship should be represented, at least by the end of the movie.
Yeah, there's an arc.
Yeah, there's an arc for sure, where these two high school best friends obviously are going through this crazy night, and they kind of have to air out all their
at first
their
they're not
emotions.
being honest with each other, and then by the end,
and that movie,
again, respect
and honesty, and that's a lot of themes with a lot of these movies we're going to talk about is that to have a good friendship, especially between guys, you have to have respect, you have to have honesty, and you just, it's really those two. Like, as long as you have a good sense of like wanting to trust and honor this other person, then you guys should be fine together. And that's what they get through at the end of Superbad, because Jonah Hill's character knew that the Michael Cera character was going to college with, someone else, and he kind of hid that knowledge. They were both kind of hiding that knowledge from each other, but once they aired it out together, they told each other, "Hey, I was worried. I didn't want to be with dorm with someone else that wasn't you." And they talk it out, and once they air out their actual true feelings, they're truthful to each other. They figure out a way to continue to be friends and to move on in a better, more respectful and healthier way.
Yeah.
And
that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Now, this is kind of another one that's interesting, a little unconventional. The Banshees of Inisherin.
Banshees of Inisherin is an interesting one.
Yeah, it definitely about male friendship, though. Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell's characters, they have this falling out. Brendan Gleeson's character's like, I just don't like you anymore. Simply put, I just don't like you anymore. And then it devolves into Brendan Gleeson's like, if you fucking talk to me again, I will cut off my own fingers. And it's just, I think it's like the self-destructive nature of like, I don't know, men just not. I don't know. This movie's weird. It's like they don't want to be in the same. He doesn't want to be around Colin Farrell's character. He thinks that friendship is like a distraction from like what he's trying to work on, which is like his music, and he literally cuts off the fingers of his fiddle playing hand because of it. It's almost it's like a very self-destructive. In this movie.
I'm pretty sure it's just a metaphor of how the people that you are close with can affect you in other senses. Like if someone's bringing you down, it's like losing. It's like you're crippling yourself. If you're being, I don't know how to say this.
He's like, you're a dull person. They're
not bringing
dull.
anything to
you're
the
boring.
equation.
You don't bring anything to my life, so you're not necessary to me. And Colin Farrell's character doesn't see it that way. He really wants at least it's not a satisfying explanation to him. He can't accept why somebody wouldn't like him, and I think that's something that's a little Craig-like in that movie. But also that movie, I think, has a little more to do with being a metaphor for the Irish Civil War as well, because that's like an element to the movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
So good.
So good. Actually, my dream.
And you would
be like Cliff Booth and Rick Dalton. We've discussed this. I'm Rick Dalton in the relationship.
I'm Rick Cliff Booth. And I think with this movie, they have respect for each other. Like, even though Cliff Booth kind of helps Rick Dalton throughout the movie, he's like constantly driving him and kind of being his wingman. Rick Dalton, he respects him for he's appreciative of it, and they're both appreciative of each other for what they're each bringing to each other's relationship.
And I feel like nobody's really compromising themselves too hard in that. Like, Cliff Booth does a lot for Rick Dalton, but I think
he likes it. He says he likes it.
Yeah, and he's just chill with it. It's like, it's a mostly unspoken, but it's so wonderful. Those two characters and their camaraderie. I just love the part. I'm a has-been. It's like, don't cry in front of the Mexicans. It's crazy. That's crazy.
They have each other's back through and through. Literally, even in their job, Cliff Booth has Rick Dalton's back as his stunt guy.
Yeah, it's that's a parallel for sure.
Yeah.
RRR.
RRR is
that's actually peak.
That's a fun one because it's like immediately these two guys become friends, but they're in this weird dilemma where they're on the opposite sides of this political spectrum in India, and their arc is really interesting because they're friends, then they're enemies, but then they become friends again by like show. Well, the reason why they become enemies is because one of the guys was lying to the other guy because uh he's it's a long thing, but again, there wasn't truth involved in their friendship at the very beginning, but once everything was kind of talked about and they figured out what each other's motivations are, then it was clear, okay, they're cool now. So as long as you have like truth and like you guys are being truthful to each other, you're not lying, like that's what makes relationships work.
And those dudes are like physically in sync.
Yeah.
That's an amazing movie.
They're supportive of each other. They're always the dudes are literally riding another guy's back at some point.
That is a dude's rock movie for sure. Shaun of the Dead. There's a male friendship
honestly,
in that.
That and Hot Fuzz and even
somewhat the World's End as well. It's more of a group in that one. But yeah, Shaun of the Dead I think is my favorite of the three in that sense because it like they're roommates and you know he has a relationship, Shaun does, but he always is bringing his roommate around, and it's another one of those things where like people they are just you put two dudes together and they kind of like level out into like the same guy instead of enjoying each other's differences.
Yeah.
Shit, we know three guys who may or may not be listening to this that are just they when you get those guys together, they're all speaking a different language of their own. You know who you are.
Yeah.
One of them's name is Sean, and yeah. so
True.
Yeah, so it's more like that.
Yeah.
Another movie.
Y
Tu Mama Tambien. They're not friends in this one. They're not friends. They're more than that.
This is an interesting one because this is more of a short time friendship.
Sort of, but it's more like we're friends and then we realize it might not be like that. It might be a little different than that, and it kind of, I think, they go their separate ways.
With that movie, it really brings in more of a socio-political aspect to it as well, because one of them's really rich, the other one's really poor.
Yeah.
They're both trying to rizz up this one this one older lady, and she kind of gets in between them, or is she kind of getting them closer together? Who knows? But there's a lot of, sexual tension between them. And I guess that does make friendships very messy, is when, when you're guys, girls can't get in a sense. But I don't know, that's very weird in terms of like talking about male friendships, because this is very different from like friendship, where that's like solely based on the two guys. Ichimama Mien has the other.
In fact, we should have fucking included challengers, because this a pair with challengers.
Yeah, with
sure.
Because
those guys, they go through like a whole arc of. It's almost similar. Like they go through something. They might have a little bit of a romance thing going on, because it's like there's tension, but they don't really lean into the tension, and then this girl brings that out in them. Then they have a falling out, and then by the end of the movie, they gain that respect back for each other. That's not exactly what happens in Y Tu Mama Tambien, but I'm talking about friendship. It's like
the thing is, when you add competition into the whole
the male friendship sphere.
It gets really weird, because guys like to be very competitive, and they'll be competitive over girls, and it's been happening.
And it doesn't even matter how close you are with a guy. If there's a competitive element to it, it's like suddenly it becomes all about you,
and that could be a big problem, because like guys just naturally just want to compete with each other, and I don't think that's honestly always such a natural thing. I think it's a social thing too. It's like society is constantly putting it on the guys to be better than each other, and like sports very competitive, uh being like the military aspect of the United States at the moment, like everything, it's like you have to be bigger, better, stronger, faster, or else you're weak, and if you're weak you have no place in the world, you're lesser than and you shouldn't be cared about, or
Right.
and that's a big thing with friendships as well, is it's not like you can't be competitive, but there needs to be a certain amount of, again, respect with that competition.
We keep coming back to respect.
Yeah,
That's what it's all about.
respect and like being honest, being
Another
truthful.
kind of a couple group films here. I'll just pair these together.
Yeah.
One is Magic Mike 2,
Yeah.
and the other one is Stand By Me. The reason I include Magic Mike 2, it's one of my favorite films, genuinely. It's so fun. It's super, what's the word? It's just very joyful,
Yeah.
I think. And that's a movie about a group of guys that all use their artistic endeavor, their trade, which is being a male entertainer, to like bring joy to others.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very selfless thing that they're doing, and they kind of talk about that a lot. Like there's a scene where one of them goes into a convenience store and just starts dancing to Backstreet Boys and taking off his shirt just to see if he can make the girl at the counter smile.
Yeah.
It's not done in like a lustful, like I want to be with this girl, so I'm gonna try and like get at her this way. It's really done in a way of like, I want to entertain people, I want to make people happy and make people feel good about themselves through doing what I love. I actually think it's like it's like a very optimistic, very like human movie.
Exactly, and that's because they all have respect for what each other is doing.
Right, and they know each other's own strengths in their trade as well, and they play to that, and they're constantly supporting each other. I mean, it's fucking amazing. That movie is fucking amazing. But Stand By Me, not really the same.
Stand By Me, that's like a coming of age friendship movie, which is also great because you kind of go through all the emotions of like being friends and kind of like this pre-pubescent kind of pubescent age, where they have to go through like these little like obstacles while trying to find this body, and they kind of figure out each other's like ticks and what sets them off, and they know that they need to start supporting each other in ways that you won't get to see as you grow older, because when you're young like that you could still kind of be more open about who you are and kind of the problems you have, and that emotional support from your friends at that age can be very, very powerful and helpful, and you just don't see that same sort of support sometimes when you get older. That's why at the end of that movie, I think the quote is like, I've never had friends as good as I had when I was 12 or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also a lot of growing up as a man. I think you start to just become more interested in those competitive elements, those kind of I guess people just become more self-aware and therefore more insecure and therefore more selfish as they grow up.
Yeah.
Whereas
when you're younger,
when you're a kid, you're more vulnerable, you're more open,
you're
more
innocent, and like you're able to take in people who are different and unlike yourself, but also learn from that. And
in a way, you're like a lot braver as a kid in a very specific way.
And you're available to your friends in ways that the society isn't pushing onto you, that like, no, you can't cry in front of your friends because you're a man, you can't do that. But no, you're 12, you're going through some traumatic stuff yourself. Like, you could cry in front of your friends and they'll still be there to support you.
And sometimes you need your friend's support going through a really hard time, like when you're in prison in The Shawshank Redemption.
That's a really good friendship too. Yeah.
That's a great one. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's I don't
Again,
think
it's
there's
just
really much
like
wrong with that one.
it's respect. Like the way Andy Dufresne in that movie becomes friends with everybody in the prison is through that respect. He offers himself up to help them whenever he can, like when they're on the roof and they're talking about like taxes, and he's like, I used to do taxes, I used to be a banker or whatever. He got his friends out of being in a crappy situation, got them beers for doing the work that they're doing, because he knows if he could like sacrifice what he's good at to help these guys get a better position, like doing this like roofing, and get like a few beers in, that respect will lead to people being open and better with him and friendlier with him. And you need friends in like a situation which you're in, like a prison situation. Like you don't want to be enemies with people. You need friends with people, and to do that, you need to gain the respect.
Yeah, definitely.
We have a few more movies.
Just two more. Point Break. An interesting one because he's kind of trying to catch him.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like when you're. It's almost like that situation when. So I've kind of been in a kind of a similar situation where I was, a manager at a movie theater, but then you're friends with some of your employees or coworkers, and sometimes you don't know where the friendship and the being a coworker, the
line gets blurry.
Yeah. And it's, for instance, in Point Break, you have a cop and you have a criminal who becomes friends. They don't even know that they're looking for each other at first, but then it gets revealed, oh no, it's impossible to be friends when you're in such a weird position.
Kind
like
of a
that.
classic dynamic there. And
you don't know whether you should do the right thing or the wrong thing for your friend.
But there is like a respect gained at the end, and kind of a middle ground where, he wants to go surf on this big wave, and like he just doesn't want to get caught and arrested. And Keanu Reeves' character is like the cop, and he's saying, you got to come with us. And Patrick Swayze's the other character. He's like, I can't handle no cage, man. And they know each other at that point, so he lets him go swim on the wave because he knows he's not going to survive doing it.
Yeah.
And so he kind of lets him go out in the way he wants to. And then the other cops don't understand. They're like, why are you letting him get away? He's like, I didn't, Yeah. I don't think he actually says that, but you know what I mean.
So with that friendship, it had the respect. It just didn't have the truthfulness, the loyalty, because they were lying to each other throughout the entire. He wasn't saying who he was.
No honesty. Yeah. But they had some kind of respect. And then the last one is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is. It's a silly one, but it's the movie where Nicolas Cage plays himself, and he gets this friendship with Pedro Pascal. And I think what's interesting about their friendship is that Pedro Pascal's character is such a big fan of Nicolas Cage, he like idolizes him, but then they kind of just start to hang out and get along.
This is also a weird one because you don't really find yourself in situations like this often where someone really wants to be friends with you because they're, I guess, a fan of you or something.
Well, also there's the idea that I think Nicolas Cage is like hired by the police to catch this guy who they think is like doing bad things as well. And I think there's just kind of a bit of a Point Breakism to it as well in that way.
So it's kind of, they don't really it doesn't really work most of the movie because you're kind of like figuring out how is this even gonna work out, because Pedro Pascal seems to really be into Nick Cage, but Nick Cage doesn't know who Pedro Pascal is, like who he actually is. And it takes a while before the movie where you actually kind of get on both their sides with it. And I don't know. It's a weird. I've only seen it once. I would honestly have to rewatch it again to get like a full feeling on how that friendship actually works.
Yeah,
But yeah,
But yeah,
this was just a little segment where we just wanted to talk about like how male friendships like
the different portrayals of male
yeah,
friendship, and how complicated of a thing it is, and why it's great that we have a new one that really breaks it down to its rawest elements,
yeah,
and is just completely about that from start to finish. We already gave our ratings. It's a masterpiece. It's a
yeah.
10 out of 10 movie. 5 apples in the box out of 5. So our questions for you listening are: what is your favorite comedy this decade, basically of the last 5 years? What's your favorite I think you should leave sketch if you have one?
Yeah.
And then what are your favorite male friendships in movies? What are ones that we missed, right? And something I would like to add to this as well: if you have a male best friend in your life, just comment his name.
Yeah.
I don't want to see anyone named Andrew though. I'm just kidding. The director of this movie's name is Andrew, actually.
Yeah, it's a little inside joke.
Just an inside joke in case our friend Andrew is listening to this episode. Don't worry about it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to be our friends, you could follow us on other platforms and follow us here, wherever you're listening to this: Spotify, YouTube, Apple. Rate us 5 apples in the box out of 5, just like Friendship. Just pretend you're rating the movie Friendship.
Yeah.
Just like 1 star. Fuck that movie.
I hate that movie. What are you guys talking about?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Anything else you would like to add?
No, just watch this movie. It's really good. Support it.
Watch this movie. Watch all the movies we
Yeah.
talked about. They are all, let me just double check. Yeah, they're all pretty good.
Yeah. Not a bad one there.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening once again. I've been Peyton,
And I've been Adrian.
and we'll see you next time on the Apple Box.